Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emma the Cat Lady, and you join me here. We're back in the Commonwealth, we're in the Glowing Sea, so this is one of the most fascinating areas in Fallout 4. I really love the atmosphere of the place and the apt name, because it really does feel like you're underwater. It definitely gives those vibes, because you can't see very far ahead, everything's a bit murky. It's also one of the most dangerous places in the Commonwealth, so I thought we would take a look at some of the locations here. So we're just kind of on the edge of the Glowing Sea, almost. And we're going to be heading to a specific location. But I wanted to talk a bit about the Glowing Sea in general. So pre-war, it was a community that had many homes, businesses, industrial and military sites present. And it's probably a good reason that it was targeted, because there were some military sites present here, so obviously that would make a good target for America's enemies to want to destroy. Kind of makes sense. And of course, it was ground zero for the high yield nuclear detonation that occurred, which is obviously the one that we see from the lift at Vault 111 at the beginning of the game. And it's obviously not actually a sea, but it's probably been named that because it does feel like it. You know, you're certainly. It does just kind of feel. You get that impression just from the way it looks and things. And obviously, we've got lots of puddles of irradiated water. I've got God mode on, so that's why I'm not taking any radiation damage. But normally, when you come here, the rads do get pretty high, so you need to be prepared for that. But yeah, it does. It really feels like you're underwater, or you're on like an alien planet or something like that. It's got a lot of atmosphere to it, this place, which I really like. Oh. Yeah, a lot of beasties here as well, so do be kind of aware of that when you come to this place. I think I have spotted the location I was looking for on the compass. But yeah, so we've got all these like puddles that are obviously very, very irradiated, and all the trees and things are dead all around. But, you know, buildings are kind of half buried. There's still little remnants of some of the infrastructure that was around here at the time. We've got these burnt out shells of cars that are buried under the ground and everything. Oh, got a nice oil spill there. There's a death. Oh, several death claws. Yeah, bits of ruined houses and things. So it's quite a mess. It's quite a mess. And you can see how kind of misty it is. This place is basically permanently under a radiation storm. So this is where the radiation storms that travel across the Commonwealth actually come from as well. It's pretty much always going on here. But what happens is that these storms pick up all this radioactive material and they carry it away and carry it across the Commonwealth, and that's the reason that you can get caught in one of these storms when you're out and about, because the winds kind of blow it in from the Glowing Sea. And because of the high radiation, very few people can actually live here. The children of Atom love it, obviously. They're a bit of a special case when it comes to humans and radiation. Most of them seem to have an innate kind of immunity to radiation, which is why they can kind of live here, or they're just doing it out of sheer force of will that they're surviving the radiation. But Brian Virgil, who was the scientist that escaped the Institute, he came here because he knew that people would struggle to follow him because of the radiation, and because he'd become a super mutant, so that made him immune to the radiation as well. And beyond that, as you've seen on the way over here, the place is occupied by a vast array of monsters, including a lot of death claws and rad scorpions, all your giant insects. So you will see stingwings and bloatflies and blood bugs and things buzzing around, and a lot of feral ghouls. Again, not many humans are kind of surviving in this location, but there is certainly plenty of feral ghouls. So if you're planning to explore this place and not do it with the cheat modes on, like I do for these videos, then you need to be prepared for the invisible fires. So having Radaway and Radex or some kind of radiation protection is a must for this location. The hazmat suits are really good for protecting you against the rads, but not so helpful when you're going toe to toe with the death claws. So best bet really is a suit of power armor, because you get Best of Both Worlds. You get radiation protection, and you also get protection from the nasties that hang around in this place as well. And if you're in survival mode, there's very few sources of clean water or beds to sleep in this location, so you probably want to plan accordingly with caffeine and things. So that brings us to the first location that I wanted to look at in the Glowing Sea, because most of there's some fairly important ones. Obviously, the Crater of Atom, the rocky cave where Virgil is hanging around, and then depending on what ending you do, you might get sent to the Sentinel site. The Brotherhood sends you there at some point. There is also some of the kind of updates with the Creation Club adds on a thing where the Enclave have kind of commandeered a few places around here. But this is the first location I wanted to talk about. So it's found just to the north of the Sentinel site, pretty much due north here. And it was a robot repair shop pre-war. And it's now partially buried, so we're actually kind of standing on the roof here. We do have this wee room here that we will be able to get into shortly. Yeah, it's one of those doors that needs to be unlocked with a terminal. So we are standing on the roof. But we can just kind of hop down and get into the place. So yeah, you can see there's lots of the kind of machinery that you'd expect from, a repair shop to have for various things. We've got some glowing fungus, nice. There we go, now we can see just a little storage room. Yeah. Down the stairs. Little office. This guy. Save him from causing any problems. Yeah. So not a massive amount to see internally in this place, but there is a few interesting bits and pieces. So this is obviously their main workshop area. We've got some crates with some of the usual bits and pieces that you'd expect to find. But we do have Sentry Bot model kit. I love these. I want them in real life. I mean, I think I have got quite a collection of the little robots from the Fallout Loot Crate when I used to get that. I had to stop getting it because A, it was getting too expensive, and B, the quality of the stuff was deteriorating quite a bit for paying more money for it. So it just wasn't feasible, especially when I had to give up my job and wasn't really earning an income anymore from that. So, but yeah, I do like the little model robots that you can find dotted about the place. But we've got this terminal here, and that opens the door to the room up on the roof that we saw, as well as having some entertaining entries about some of the repair jobs that were completed shortly before the bombs fell. So we can have a look at them. So invoices. William Thomas. So the Mr. Handy randomly loses mobility and falls to the ground about 4 times a day. Asked if he knew what could have caused the issue. Will reported seeing the neighbourhood kids throwing baseballs at the robot. However, no physical damage noticed upon inspection. Labour was 16 hours, which is quite a long time to investigate and repair a robot. But There was no physical harm noticed. One of the guys did find some loose screws inside. Upon further inspection, it was determined that the propulsion fail switch was being activated by one or more of the loose screws, causing the handy to fall to the ground. So clearly, there's a little switch inside that controls the jet that keeps the Mr. Handy from like levitating essentially. So yeah, had a few screws loose. Eh, that's a terrible joke. Anyway, Jared Bean, or Beena, I'm not sure how you would pronounce that exactly. But Jared brought in his Mr. Handy after noticing it constantly bumping into things around the house. Labour was 8 hours, so it's only like one day's work essentially. Two of the three optical sensors had been wired incorrectly, causing the bot to mistranslate incoming data on its surroundings. This bot has been so heavily modified, I'm sure it's breaking all kinds of federal laws. So, obviously, interesting little tidbit there that, as robots became commercially available, when they're first invented, it was generally something that, corporations use and manufacturing companies use, that kind of thing. But in the Fallout universe, domestic robots became more popular and people were using them to babysit their children and walk the dog and do all the household work. They were using them in hospitals, as we talked about with Milton General Hospital. So, on the back of that, there would have been some laws put in place for how robots could be used, how they had to be regulated, all that kind of thing. And these things should, especially once a piece of technology or something becomes readily available to the public, it does need to be properly regulated to make sure that any kind of harm or risk is mitigated. So, who knows what this guy's been doing to the robot. I definitely have questions, but I'm not entirely sure I really want the answers to them. Um, yeah, Fisto comes to mind. And then we've got final one here, Jessica McCann. So Jessica brought in her company's Protectron after several co-workers complained of a mildew smell coming from the bot. When asked about any potential causes, Jessica reported that the company did host a happy hour last week and things may have gotten a little out of control. The Protectron may or may not have been involved in a pool party. And that was 4 hours of labour, which is quite quick. But yeah, the report is that the lower compartment was full of water, so it was drained, cleaned, rinsed, and dried, and that seems to have fixed the problem. So yeah, may have or may not have been involved in a pool party. That kind of makes me think of something that I've seen talked about on Threads recently, actually, as a vet, where if your dog does eat something that it's not supposed to, and even if it's something that's technically against the law, just tell your vet that, or because we don't care about laws, we don't care about, we're not the police, but it's much easier to treat the problem if we know what's caused the problem. It's something, it happens. Dogs especially are very, very silly and they will eat anything that looks even remotely tasty or not tasty necessarily. But we're not going to report you for smoking, or partaking in certain sometimes legal herbs, let's say. You know what I'm getting at here. But it's one of these things, and it's the same with this. Like if something happened, if your robot is smelling like damp and it's somehow spent time in a pool accidentally, just tell them that, because it does make the job much easier. It's a lot easier to diagnose and treat the problem when you get all the information. Most of these situations where it's not really up to us to report you to the police or whatever. Obviously, if we're talking about, there are certain things where people do have to report when it comes to children and things like that, that's different. But you know, when it comes to that your dog has eaten your special brownies, just tell the vet that's what happened. And if your robot took a dip in the pool, tell your mechanic that's what happened, so that they can fix it. Like, yeah, it's kind of funny. So anyway, we're gonna open the door. And then we can head back outside. I say there's definitely, it's kind of a shame there's not actually any robots in this place. Obviously these crates and things are supposed to be, I'm guessing, spare parts and equipment and whatnot. But it would have been kind of fun if there was a robot flying around and that kind of thing, but never mind. So, nope, that's the storage cupboard this way. There we go. Yeah, conveniently the roof collapsed into a perfect ramp so that we could get back up here. That is very convenient. And oh yeah, you can see it's nice of the game to alert you. Hey, you opened this door, by the way. Oh, we've got a skeleton and quite a few pieces. Oh, hello. Yeah, there are ghouls in this room. Depending on your level, they could be quite high level ones. But you'll generally get a bit of a mixture. I say this character is very high level, so we do get the charred ones and the bloated, glowing ones and all the nasty ones. But yeah. Oh, right, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, so again, we've got more stuff in here, and you've got your obligatory steamer trunk with the usual kind of stuff that you'll find in that. And oh, more skeletons. I don't really know. I wonder. Yeah, I think between what's there and what's there, that adds up to like 3 people worth of skeletons. Yeah. Yeah, we've got 2 leg bones and 2 feet. 2 feet. There's an arm and skull. Yeah. So we're adding up to 3 entire skeletons of people in this little room here. So yeah. There is also another fun little one, and I have had a viewer point out a couple of interesting similar things to me, which I will be featuring in an upcoming video, so I haven't forgotten about that. They will be featured. But yeah, there's this little pipe here. I'm not sure how I'm going to get into it because I don't have a jetpack. I'm going to have to no-clip this. I think I might have to no-clip this. That's okay, we can do that. So yeah, we've got this pipe here. We've got another 2 skeletons who presumably came here maybe to shelter when the bombs came. And this became their final resting place, so they could have been a couple, they could have been a family, who knows. But they do have a chem box, but yeah, I don't think that's really easy to access without having a jetpack, which I didn't bring with me. I think I'm still dressed as a Silver Shroud, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, quite a fun little location. I say the terminal entries are entertaining, certainly. I'm just gonna deal with the scorpions. Yeah. At least for now. But yeah, I definitely want to get stuck into, there's quite a few little bits and pieces around the glowing sea that I think are very interesting, that you might not find, because it's definitely an intimidating place to be, and it's supposed to be, you know, it's not supposed to be a cakewalk. It's supposed to be a bit scary and a bit challenging. Death claws everywhere, and the radiation obviously causing problems, especially in like survival mode. I've just realised that I could have probably got, yeah, okay. So clearly that's the way to get into that pipe, is to just come up the top of it, and then you can kind of drop down into the edge. That makes a lot more sense. I don't think I've had enough caffeine today. Never mind. But yeah, so that's O'Neill's Manufacturing. And the next location is going to be quite a fun one. We're going to be heading for a downed plane, which is the Skylines Flight 1665. That's going to be the location for next week. There's quite a lot of fun stuff that's kind of going on there. Because a lot of the downed planes in Fallout 4 you can actually find like the final recording and the sort of black box thing of the plane, but there's also some smuggling and whatnot happening in there, so that's going to be quite a good one. So that'll be next week. On Saturday, we're going to finish out, I think I'm going to kind of finish out the Vault Psychology series on Saturday, just cover everything that I've got left in that. And that's going to be the end of the Science of Fallout series, at least for the time being. As I've said, and I've posted kind of in the community tab, I have been thinking about where to go next with the channel and how I want to approach things, because I've been doing this for a while, and one thing that I always like to do is I want to continue making better content for you guys, so trying to find a way that I can do that where it's going to be sustainable for me as well. As some of you know, I have been dealing with a lot of health issues on and off for the last couple of years. And a lot of that brings fatigue with it, which, and I want to make sure that I'm kind of doing the best I can. I've learned quite a bit more, in terms of editing and things, and I wanted to kind of make better videos for you guys, so I'm still thinking about exactly how I want to do it, but my thought about the format going forward is to do some kind of smaller, lower videos once a week, and then stick to the monthly kind of larger videos, so doing focusing on a more in-depth topic and talking about it, so they'll be longer videos, with a lot more kind of research and that kind of thing involved in it, so it's something that will take me longer to make, but it will be hopefully more interesting, more entertaining, and more in-depth. So that is kind of where I'm going with things. I do have thoughts about doing maybe some video reviews of games that I've played as well. Possibly looking at some challenge runs. I'll have to have a think about that and how I'd like to do that, if that's something that you guys would be interested in as well. But I think for going forward, it's going to be kind of one big video a month that's going to be more in depth, more thorough, and more entertaining, and then maybe some smaller kind of lower, like the locations and stuff like that here and there, and kind of once a week as well. And speaking of, the Ulysses video is on the way. It's all recorded. I just need to finish putting it all together. So the current goal is to get that done and get that ready for Thursday. I'm really excited about this one, so hopefully you guys will be too. And that should be hopefully uploaded on Thursday night. So it'll be at the usual time, which is 7:30 in the evening, UK time, GMT. I'm terrible at time zones. So that should be up Thursday for you guys as well, hopefully, and that'll be that. So thanks very much for watching, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, then do subscribe for more. I say I have got plenty more videos on the way and lots more fun things to talk about. So yeah, I will catch you guys next time. Bye.